welcome everybody to From Misfit to Mystic. And I'm super excited to have one of my favorite people in the world on my show today. Let me tell you a little bit about my guest, Melanie Richards. She is the founder and director of HappyTree Yoga in Montreal since 2007. Melanie leads Hatha, Yin and Gentle Yoga teacher trainings, and she is absolutely amazing, if I don't say so myself. She's a passionate speaker, writer, and workshop leader, TEDx Montreal Women, RVH Foundation, MUHC Conferences, Cirque du Soleil, wow, Wanderlust, just the word lust is interesting, in Montreal Tremblant, Expo Yoga blog on topics of yoga, mindfulness, and health. She was recognized as an outstanding citizen by CTV, that's a Montreal TV network, on the power of, Citizens by CTV, the power of one, for her work in the community with cancer patients and underprivileged youth, and is the winner of a Quebec Notable Award for social entrepreneurship. Welcome to the show, gorgeous.
Oh, thank you.
Excited to have you here.
Oh, thanks for making me sound so good.
Yeah, well, you are quite an amazing and established human being, and someone I love deeply, very, very much. And I'm super happy.
That means the world to me.
Yeah, I'm very happy to have you with us today, and I can't wait to talk about your life experience, how you went from misfit to mystic, which is such a fun topic. It kind of matches when we were in Morocco at our first retreat, and you guys nicknamed me the inappropriate luminary. Wasn't that fun?
Oh, we did.
Right?
Oh, yes. Lisa is so powerful. She is such a badass and will cut right through to exactly what you need to know, what you need to hear to improve your life. And yet she's a total freaking goofball. Like, she will have you on the floor laughing. So like, you'll be scared of her and laughing at her at the same time.
A lot of humor can make some pretty deep transformations, right? As we know. Yeah, lightening up, it really makes a difference to how we live our life and our purpose. So
Definitely.
I'm super excited to talk to you about your journey and to dig into some questions about, how you became the person you are today and where it all began, in particular to the yoga that you are now quite masterful at, and how that came about. Like, what happened, Mel? Like, how did you end up in this place?
Well, basically, I had no idea that yoga was going to be in my life. I had an aunt when I was young who was a yoga teacher, so I had some idea of it, but I didn't take my first yoga class really till after university. So I did a whole degree in television production, and then after being behind the camera, I really decided I wanted to give myself a shot as an actress because I'd always loved acting.
Right.
And so this is leading back to your question of how did I get into yoga? Because I got an agent who reluctantly took me in because I wasn't part of the acting union, which makes it harder to send me out for auditions. And the other thing was that I didn't have what he called the anorexic look. I had an athletic build, and I was still very, average weight, very healthy. But he was like, I'm going to send you out for the best friend role. You won't get leading lady roles because you don't have the look that we see in all the magazines. Wow. And so when I was reading those same magazines like Cosmo and, all the fashion magazines, it was like eye candy. I would devour them. I love those magazines. But what it told me was that my body type wasn't desirable. And a lot of the women in those magazines were starting to do yoga. This was back in like 2002. And so I was hearing about Madonna and Gwyneth Paltrow and some of the stars with very desirable body types that were doing yoga. And so I started yoga because I wanted to lose weight. I wanted to lean out my muscle mass. I'm really not embarrassed to say it because, hey, that's where I started out, right? Like,
yes,
that's
of course,
got me in the door. So I started hot yoga because I thought, okay, well, with the extra sweating, I'll be able to lose water weight. I was really just obsessed with losing weight through yoga and getting leaner muscle mass. But then something happened along the way. It was it became less important to me what my agent thought. I started to care less about the approval of the casting directors. And what yoga gave me was this internal compass of well-being, of self-worth and confidence that I had never experienced before. It was so new to me that it blew my mind, and it blew my mind like the freaking Big Bang. And that's why my whole universe changed after that.
I love it.
I went from external validation 100%. Like I had to look a certain way to fit in, especially in the industry I'd chosen to be in, acting. I thought if I went out with good enough looking guy, even if he was an asshole, if I appeared a certain way to society, then I would be validated. And so here I was, like, bombing auditions because I had like severe anxiety and body image issues. So not getting called out to that many auditions, working in a bar full of coked out people, like, even though I love them, don't get me wrong, but I was really living paycheck to paycheck, very hurting financially. And yet I had never felt more confident in my life. It was such a weird paradox.
So I want to just do a pause there for a minute, because I think this is what my entire show, the reason I was motivated to even do something like this, the title of it, because for me, going from misfit to mystic is really about, the misfit part is really about, like, I didn't know where I belonged. I didn't fit in, our social world is kind of coming down on me, or our parents or our families, or just, we don't believe in ourselves, whatever it is, making us feel out of place inside of who we are. And becoming a mystic is really about transcending into something. In this case, in this show, it's really about transcending into your purpose and the power of who you are, and monetizing that in your life, and living at this level of mastery, because you really know who you are deeply. And you also know the deeper core of your callings and how you've transcended that experience. So I find this amazing. If we frame back to what you were talking about, and just saying, like, I totally didn't fit in. I was told I wouldn't fit in, and that pushed me to chase something different, to help myself through that journey. And then all of a sudden, what was helping me, the yoga, turned into some type of mastery for you, some kind of deeper acceptance of who you are. A calling rose from somebody telling you that you would never fit in, and you saying, well, I don't know if I'm going to buy into that, and I'm not sure that I'm going to believe in that. I'm questioning you, right? Into this other place, which is now become, how you monetize your purpose and your life, right? Through the yoga.
Totally. And I did buy into it at first. That's why the transition was so huge, because I really did think that there was something wrong with me because of the body I was born in, or maybe I wasn't trying hard enough to have the body that I should have, because, even though I was already going to the gym and counting carbs and all these things, which I think a lot of women, unfortunately, feel they need to do. And so it was a kind of a progressive thing, that through the yoga, from going from, okay, I need to change my body to fit your ideals because I don't fit in, to, well, fuck you. Actually, I'm super great the way I am, and I quit. Like, that's kind of how it went. It wasn't like a vindictive, I made it sound like it was an angry I quit, but it really wasn't. It was just a natural shedding, like a falling away.
Yes, that's what's so interesting, because that's what transcendence is. It's realizing that what somebody is telling you is not your truth. And if we pause there and I say, okay, Mel, what would you tell my audience that really helped you kind of delete or disagree with what you were being told? What happened inside? Well, how could you describe what happened inside that made you say, that is not my truth?
Oh, such a good question. Wow. I think it was just a shift of perspective.
Right.
From I'm broken, I'm wrong, to the feeling that yoga gave me was a feeling of internal confidence and an internal compass of my self-worth, that was independent from my external circumstances, and from what people thought of me.
Okay. And when you got into yoga, the motivation was?
So at first the motivation was to lose weight and to change
Right.
my body.
Mm,
And then the continuation was, wow, what is this self-love that I'm feeling that I've never felt before?
incredible.
And I want to share that with others.
Right. So you bumped into your calling from you trying to fit into that other world and
Yeah,
recognize that you should not try to be somebody that you're not, that it's
totally.
not what they're saying is not your truth. They're telling you that something's wrong with your body, that you won't fit in, that you can't be a leading role, that, and these are all falsehoods, right? That you said no to. This is
Mhm.
not who I am. And that is not correct. And look, I'm doing this work. I'm in yoga and I'm feeling like this is what I'm supposed to feel in my life. Like I'm supposed to feel this kind of purpose, this kind of power in who I am, this kind of confidence that's naturally coming because you're congruent with what you're doing, right? That's kind of
Absolutely.
how it
Yeah.
flowed through. Yeah. Which is
Yeah.
absolutely incredible. So I love that. This is like very powerful, so if we frame it and say, what is this? It's like you found power through, trying to find a solution to a purpose that really wasn't your purpose. And you bumped into your purpose because,
Yeah.
for me, the universe is always working, even with our misgivings, to help us find the way and to the solutions of who we truly are, right? And to the purpose that we're really meant to be, So
Yeah. Yeah.
thank
It couldn't have
you.
happened any other way. It
Right.
couldn't have happened any other way.
Yeah.
And it's, and I think that we have to remember that our life, if you look back in the bigger context of things, those
Mm.
struggles really are there for a reason, because there's a lesson that needed to be understood in that time to bring
Yes.
you into the next level of awakening.
Right.
And, I work with you and you're a freaking spiritual medium. And I was not spiritual. My dad was is atheist, dust to dust. So it was a
Mm-hmm.
very new thing for me, because also through the yoga, it started out as a purely physical exercise, and from it awakened my spirituality. It was
Incredible.
something that I I couldn't deny. It was amazing.
And this goes back to something super interesting that I love talking about because, you know, through that pain, there's a couple of hashtags. You're open-minded, right? Open-minded. You went from, I'm going to be open-minded to find a solution to this problem into bumping into my purpose. You
Mm-hmm.
know what I mean? But because you were open-minded, you were able to lean into another direction, and you were still open-minded again with the feelings that you were experiencing in yoga. And that brought you to another level of awareness of who you want to be and how you want to feel doing what you're doing. So the yoga calling could present itself to you because you weren't fixated on what you were trying to accomplish in the acting. You became
Mm-hmm.
very flexible and open, which are true spiritual practices, and to be led into something else. So I, first of all, want to, I admire that deeply because I think it's very important. We get too fixated on what we think we have to do. We don't realize we're being
Mm-hmm.
guided to what we're meant to do. And this is an
Yeah.
incredible thing that happened for you, which we can showcase, which is absolutely amazing. And I know you have so much has happened after that point of you opening up and letting yourself really chew on this feeling you had of confidence that yoga was bringing you. And how did this lead you to HappyTree Yoga? What
Oh,
happened?
good question.
Mm.
Well, I was continuing on with my life, bartending at night, trying to go to some auditions, working on my own acting projects. But the
Mhm.
highlight of every day was going to my lunch yoga class. And
Wow.
slowly my attention or my days started to shift, where even if I was working in a bar, I would get home at a reasonable enough time that I could get up and journal. So I would do stream of consciousness. I think at that point I'd picked up the book The Artist's Way, which was like the first spiritual book that I ever came across.
Great book.
And so I would do my journal, my morning pages, and then go for a walk in the mountain. And I didn't realize I was doing it at the time, but I was going for meditation walks, like where I would just be totally present to every sense. Again, didn't have a name for it. I would just go do it and then come back down the hill into my yoga class, and then usually work on a little bit of stuff in the afternoon before needing to go to work. So it became the central part of my day and the thing that I look forward to the most. And it sort of informed everything else. if that makes sense.
It does, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. And how did that pull you towards, like, what happened? When did the spark of light shine and you realized, I want to open a yoga studio?
Yeah.
And I'm doing it.
All this is, that's right. So that was all sort of the preamble, the precursor to one day then being in class, being in Shavasana, which is the final relaxation. And I just feel tears coming out of my eyes, and they're like the good tears, you know, the tears of relief. And I roll over to the side and get up. And honestly, it felt like 100 pounds had been lifted from my shoulders. I felt so light. And I just walked right up to my teacher with this huge grin on my face and went, I quit. And he was like, what? And I'm like, yeah, I quit acting. And I came to all those realizations that we talked about earlier in the interview. And I was about to go on a short trip. So I went and did yoga every day on this short vacation that I went on. Got back, it was the middle of February. I was sitting at the Starbucks looking out, and not a very nice scene. I think it was like the Octopussy or something, like some sex club. Not the most inspiring, but in that moment, I remember I just said, I'm going to open a yoga studio. And and then right away, it was just, okay, what is in my power? What can I do? What can I control? And I thought, okay, well, if I'm going to open a studio, I should probably become a yoga teacher. So then I started looking for yoga teacher trainings. And that was really the catalyst, the first part. Found a teacher training in Ottawa, thought that would be a great opportunity to kind of start fresh. I'm from Ottawa, and I wanted to reconnect with some of my old friends, and I wanted to sort of do some healing around my relationship with my mother. So it seemed like a perfect opportunity. I started working at a 9-to-5 sales job during the week, and then doing my teacher training on the weekends. And in that sales job, I had to cold call people who were entrepreneurs or who own companies or high level executives in the government. So I thought, well, who do I know who owns businesses? And I kept a shoebox of the interesting people that I'd met in my time bartending. Granted, it was a very high-end bar, a hotel bar, and the restaurant had won Best New Restaurant in Canada. I mean, it was very high class, so it attracted very high class people. And one of them was my business partner, Nicholas Hoare, Hoare. And I had kept his card. Yeah, I know.
Right.
We can joke about that.
Yeah.
Mr. Hoare. And so I kept his card, and I called him up, and he remembered exactly who I was. And he said, well, I have a store in Ottawa, so I'll come see you. I'll hear your spiel. Do you want to have lunch after? So I said, yes. I was all in my power suit in the boardroom, you know, trying to sell him on the product that I was selling. And then when we went for lunch, he said, okay, is this what you're going to do now? Are you going to be in sales? And I said, no way, I'm opening a yoga studio.
I love it.
And he was like, excuse me, what? And I was like, yeah, I'm really into yoga and I want to open a studio. And he's like, well, how do you plan to do that? And I'd done a lot of visioning. I had journals full of all my ideas. So I was able to paint him a pretty good picture of what I wanted to create.
Let's stop for a minute. So you became open, you became willing, you became vulnerable. You allowed yourself to tell people what you were looking to do. You became unapologetic for the experience of, I know this is what I'm going to do. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm doing it. You took risks. You know, you called him. You said, hey, you took an adventure. You went. You put yourself into that position of just saying, this is what I'm doing, and I don't know how I'm going to do it. I don't know, what's going to happen, which is pretty vulnerable experience when you've been there. Us entrepreneurs who know what that's like to be like, I'm doing this now, and then you go, I have no idea how I'm going to do it, but I'm doing it. Yeah, it feels so true and real that it's undeniable inside, right? So you do all these things, and the reason I want to stop and talk about it, because it's very important for people to understand the vulnerability, courage, concoction that's happening inside you in this moment, which happens to all entrepreneurs, where they say yes to what they want, and that's incredible. So,
well, I have to tell you, because it was super funny, right? We're there and he's listening to me, just his eyes like saucers.
Right.
And then he's like, and how do you plan to finance it?
Of course, yes.
And literally, yeah. And I didn't know, by the way, Lisa, I didn't know that he was an investor. I only knew that he owned a restaurant and some bookstores. I didn't know that he invested in other people.
You just put yourself out there.
So, so he's like, how are you going to finance it? I'm like, well, I'm going to save my money and I'm going to get some government grant. And he was like, yeah, that's no way to start a business. So that's really where the conversation started of him becoming my business partner.
Amazing. That's incredible. So you opened HappyTree Yoga. The miraculous miracle happens at business partners there. Wow. You put yourself out there. You're totally vulnerable. You're sure you have to do this. You're not sure of the details. You just know it is right because of how you feel inside. You know, you open the studio. Talk to me about that experience and the lessons you've learned. You learned from opening a studio, first of all, and also about yourself as a person. Putting yourself out there. Let's try to pull the real lessons of it, because this is the thing. Let me tell the audience. So that was 10 years ago, right? That you opened 11 years ago. So and so we're really celebrating, you know, in Montreal, and those of you in the yoga field, you understand like there's a lot of challenges, and there's been a ton of changes in the yoga community over the last 10 years. And here you are, you're still there, you're still present. HappyTree Yoga is standing and, you know, thriving still, and you're moving, and you do a ton of things. We do retreats together now. You do a lot of training in the different varieties. You've been acknowledged as one of the great teachers in Montreal. But we know together, because we've known each other and worked together for a long time, there's been a lot of ups and downs and turns and, you know, decisions and vulnerabilities in opening a business and owning one, and, you know, unraveling the experience. So I want people to understand it's not that easy. You know, we don't blink our eyes.
Oh God, no.
Yeah, I want to help the audience know, like, you can, through mindset, through vulnerability, through choosing to do it no matter what, land into your purpose and find the power in yourself to live it, which is, you know, very important for this conversation in particular. I mean, you're a pretty young woman still, and here you are, and here we are, right? And to me, it's absolutely amazing that you're still here and you're still doing it, and you continue to rise and want to help people evolve into all that they are from this yoga perspective. I call you you think you're a yogapreneur. You know, you're one of these people that is really, to me, exceptional in what you're doing. I know firsthand, because, you know, we do retreats together, and you basically create an absolutely unbelievable accent to the work that we try to accomplish with people, and help them to rise through the practice, through the different modalities. So you're super creative. You're not just a regular yoga teacher. You're able to help others rise in a very unique way, you know. And I know you've had lots of lessons and learning curves. And I just want us to pull the ones that, you know, will really help people understand walking through the vulnerability and becoming victorious, what that means. And, you know, highlight it in some way so that people walk away going, wow, Mel did that. You know, she did that. And so can I. So can I.
Oh my God. Hilarious. Yeah. Well, the first thing that comes to mind for me is that where I was in all of my conviction when I opened the studio, I thought that that's all that I needed.
Yes.
I really was like, you know, the universe thinks I'm awesome now. And the universe is helping me open a yoga studio. And this is meant to me, which means that it will be
good.
Like, I really thought it would be easy. I was like, yeah, people are just going to start coming, and they're going to see how wonderful my vision is. Yeah, it's just like, honestly, thank God I was as naive and somewhat arrogant as I was.
Right.
Because you know, it was crazy what I was trying to do with no business experience, or very little. And no yoga experience, really. I mean, I was fresh out of teacher training and wanted to open a studio in a different city than where I had done my training. So I'm like, hi, arrived fresh into Montreal. Okay, here's my yoga studio. How are people supposed to know about me, you know?
Yeah.
So my business partner, Nicholas, was wonderful with that, because he always really pushed me to do a lot of outreach. And so it was like, okay, hit the ground running, let people know I'm there. I did tons of outreach of, you know, outdoor yoga classes and yoga in malls and yoga all over the place to try and get myself seen.
Amazing.
And it was building for a while. I did have some luck. I had some luck in terms of a few studios closed right before I opened, and they gave me their client list. Lululemon had just opened, and they were a big thing.
Yes.
They still are, but like it was new. when Lululemon was new, and they took a big interest in my studio. And so they were sending us lots of people.
Amazing.
But I think I was still a bit too superstitious. I wasn't grounded enough in the numbers and in the business aspect. I really still had this kind of like yogi, the universe will take care of me kind of approach.
Yeah.
And so then I got, when I got deep into it, like 5 years in, that's where you come in, Lisa, because I was in breakdown mode. I couldn't keep up with the way that I was running my business. I wasn't delegating. I was trying to do everything myself, and just like burning out in the process.
Yeah.
And I'd also hit the limit of what I could do on my own.
Yes.
I needed help.
Yeah.
And I remember telling my business partner, like, I need help. And I reached out to my friend Sonia, because I knew she was working with you, and she always spoke so highly of you. And I said, yeah. And she said, well, maybe you should work with Lisa. And I was like, yeah, I think I need to, but I was so scared. I was so scared to admit, to talk to you, because I knew you were badass. But it was the best decision I ever made in my life.
Right. But this is the thing. So let's talk about that. Let's pull back so people really understand what happened. So one of the key things that makes you exceptional is that you're always open to see the truth at one point or the other. You took your pain.
Sometimes it takes me a while.
It doesn't matter. You took your pain and turned it into purpose. You got deliberate about your experience, and you said, you know what, I'm kind of like doing everything on your own. I think you might've got caught, we can say, in that the complex of sharing vulnerability about not being perfect. You know what I mean? Because that happens when you run a business. People, it's hard. You trying to show your best self, and yet you're struggling.
It's exhausting.
Right. And yet
it's exhausting to put something out there and say, yeah, everything's fine, when inside
when it's not.
Yeah.
And we need support, and we need help, and we need our courage to be held and contained and delivered sometimes with another viewpoint or somebody, a coach, to help us. I do that too. I've had business coaches and spiritual I've worked with lots of people too. It's very important to reach for somebody who knows how to help us, understand what's going wrong on the inside, even in our business, so that we can turn things around and really get the support we need. So that's a very important highlight. Like, you can get what you need if you're willing to be vulnerable enough with yourself to just say, I can't do it alone. I'm really in this pain. This is real. I'm anxious. I'm scared, and I'm here, but I'm not giving up. Because the key is, you said, I'm not giving up. I'm going to do this. Yeah. And I'm going to find what it takes to rise into something. I don't know what yet. I don't know how, because I don't have the solution. If you had it, you would have done it yourself. I'm just going to put myself out there and allow myself to take a risk, which is a huge, important value for entrepreneurs and people who are trying to transform their lives, to be willing to say it like it really is. And while it's happening, isn't that so difficult, right? So
it's really hard.
Yes, it is, but you did it, and here we are. And I know we did a ton of work, which I could talk about a little bit in just praising you for the courage to just be open, willing, and ready to receive difficult learning and rise above it, and take suggestions and implement the suggestions to help yourself and hear what you really need. And interestingly enough, hear what your business needs. I'm a firm believer our business has its own energy, its own vibration, and its own soul. Yeah. And we talked about that a lot. Like, how are you nourishing that beautiful soul that lives in your business, and how can we help it thrive, and how can you be in that right partnership from inside yourself to your business as well? And I know that you've done that work amazingly, because here we are 5 years later, and we're still here, and you're still standing, and you're still doing amazing, and you're very flexible in figuring out what's next for you, and open to what's next for you. You know what I mean? Yeah. Tell me about, I want to know a little bit about the teaching that you do. I want to highlight that, because I think it's really important, why you started to become a teacher, and what was the meaning of that? Because I think this is part of the transcendence, is to say, like, I learned so much from what I've been given as a yoga teacher and owner of a studio. And you had a motivation to want to teach these different modalities to people. What is that motivation?
Are you talking more specifically about yoga teacher trainings or just
yeah,
teaching yoga in
the teacher
general?
trainings and the yoga too, either one or both is
Yeah.
great. Yeah.
What motivated me to do it in the first place? Well, partly it was a business decision. And it was my teacher, Nishala Devi, actually, that gave me more of the confidence. She said, you're ready. You can lead a teacher training. Just bring in guests to cover the portions that you're not as much of an expert in. So for example,
Amazing.
I brought you into my training to talk about intention setting and overcoming fear. And my motivation really was that at that time, I was auditioning a lot of teachers for HappyTree because I wasn't producing teachers from within the studio. And what I found is that the teachers that were coming fresh out of training that I was auditioning, they were really good. They were really technically sound. They gave good instructions, but I didn't feel their soul. I didn't feel them coming through in their teachings. And I thought, okay, with the Yoga Alliance, there's X number out of 200 hours that are allotted to anatomy, philosophy, practice, etc. And then there's about 50 hours in there that you get to allot to what you want to sort of have how you want your teacher training to stand out or focus on. And I thought, what could be more important than personal transformation and like a spiritual growth through a yoga teacher training? Because ultimately that's what we're sharing. The postures and everything are just the tools that help bring the message across. And I think that, when we've been through crap and come through the other side resilient, when we've been humbled, when we've gone through pain and risen above and all that as students of yoga, then we have something richer to share with our students, and we can be more empathetic, more compassionate to our students and give from a deeper place.
This is crazy. So here's what I just understood about you. You started out, I wanted to become a teacher because it made me feel so good. I opened a yoga studio because I knew it was my calling, and I just felt it from the core of who I am. Then I recognized that yoga is a transformational and it's a transcendent experience. And yes. I wanted, through training and teaching people, for them to have this really spiritually deep and profound experience and transformation through the learning, through the training, and through the practice. And isn't that what yoga really is, right?
Yeah.
And doesn't that, go ahead.
Yeah. No, totally. Yoga is the union of the body, mind, and spirit. And it's where I think when you are in that alignment is where you're ultimately in your power.
Incredible. Honestly, I know because we do a lot together, right? So in the retreats, I'm always exhilarated because you just bring it to another level altogether, and you really understand, like when we talk about what do we really want to give the people that are coming and how can we help them rise? You take the time and effort to really think about it. And the thing that I love about you personally is your heart is always in it to win it. Always, always, always. When you understand something from your heart, you absolutely want to share it. And that says everything to me, that you're living that purpose, you're in the right place. It showcases your authenticity and your vulnerability to be able to put yourself out there. I know that you put yourself out there, in a very honest and unique way. And I'm sure that wasn't easy to be vulnerable. So I want to ask you this question to help the audience. What helps you be vulnerable and really able to rise above these moments, or just share honestly where you are with others? And even in your classes, like, how do you help people know it's okay to feel and experience the fear and the process and the stress and the vulnerability of change, of transformation, of pain, of healing? What do you do?
Well, I think it's important to talk about it with people that you trust and will uplift you. So, for example, the best example is you, Lisa. It took me, I think, a little while to really trust, because hello, you're clairvoyant, and I had never experienced that before. So you had to be accurate and right quite a few times before I was like, holy shit, this woman is a bomb. But but yeah, so, don't just talk to anybody and everybody about because that's just like, that's not vulnerable. That's just, I don't know what that is, but you want to be vulnerable with the right people, I think, first of all,
Very
and
important.
people that you trust and people that you respect. And then to just know that it's part of the process. Like something that's been so great about you as a mentor and coach, as well as my business partner, Nicholas, is that both of you were able to say, yeah, Mel, you fucked up, but you know what? It's a rite of passage. Water under the bridge, move on. Now this is where you can go. It's not too late. You can still, do great things.
Amazing.
To, look at this truth that you were afraid to look at and then transcend it, do something about it.
Right. And maybe there's a miracle in it.
Yep.
Right. Which is so important. Like people don't realize during our worst moments, the light is shining the brightest. I always say that when at 12 o'clock, when the shadows are the darkest from the sun to the trees, the light is shining the brightest. And it's so important for us to know that. And sometimes we don't know it if we don't talk about it, if we don't share with people we trust who believe in us and would tell us the truth either way. You know what I mean? I think that's really, really important, right? Yeah. So tell me about why you think people need to do yoga. I want you to tell the audience, because I think it's important for people to understand the true and deep benefit of yoga and its practice.
Well, one thing that I like about yoga is that it is non-secular. So it's really open to every individual of every religion and every race and culture. It doesn't discriminate. It's universal truths. And that it doesn't matter where you come at it from, because yoga is actually much bigger than the postures, right? So you can come at it from a very physically intense practice, but some people practice yoga through breath work, others meditation, others through the yamas and yamas, which are the precepts on which to live life. So you have like people that just live in a non-harming way, let's say. And you have karma yogis, people who do yoga through service. You have bhakti yogis, the people who reach states of yoga through devotion, through chanting, chanting mantras, So I think people have to realize that yoga is much broader than just the pictures that you see in the magazines and what's portrayed in the media and on ads for cars or yogurt, and not to be intimidated by those images and to realize that it's just a means to an end, and all the ends are the same, which is a reconnection with your spirit, a reconnection with the truth of who you are, which is a divine being of light, of love, of peace, and of truth. And that's what Namaste points to. I'm bowing to the divine in you that is the same in me. And we are all these divine beings, and yoga is just that system or that science that helps us get into that space of connection with ourselves.
Beautiful. So thank you. That was absolutely gorgeous. And who wouldn't want to understand and deepen their awareness of yoga practice after that? That's really, really special. And it helps people understand the true meaning without it being complicated, which is, I think, one of your amazing attributes, is being able to express the benefits of divine living through yoga, through practice. And you can talk to anybody. I've seen you do it. So it's really, really powerful to be able to use language that anybody can understand, So I want to know, so here we are, HappyTree is going well. Everything's moving. You're changed. You've gone through different transformational experiences. You've gone through metamorphic understanding and all. I know all these things. Tell me about what you're doing now and where you want to go from here, and what's really important to you after all these lessons learned.
Well, I think one thing that both you and again, Nicholas, who have been such big influences for me, taught me is not to be afraid of change, and that it's natural, that one thing leads to another, that they're stepping stones. So just like maybe how you were describing that I didn't get so attached to acting and was open to yoga coming into my life. Well, now it's like I ran a studio for 10 years and I'm still running a studio, and we moved. And in that move, I really got a chance to reevaluate where I wanted to put my focus. And what I wanted to make some space in my life for was I felt ready now with the training that I had in my business and as a teacher of teachers to reach a broader audience. And so this is what I'm focused on now. It's like making the space in my life to be able to do workshops out of town. So for example, this weekend, I'm going to Trois-Rivières to offer a workshop in French, really outside of my comfort zone.
Love it.
And the big thing that I've been working on is my own YouTube channel. And I can't believe I'm saying that out loud, but if all goes well, I'm going to be launching next week. And I just recorded today with a Q&A video to introduce it. Awesome. What's the name of it? It's just my channel for now. So it's like Melanie Richards.
Okay.
So we can talk about that together. Yeah. Maybe it does need a name. We'll talk. We'll chat after the interview. But no, it's really about reaching a broader audience now, and so getting more. Actually, interesting full circle thing, right? That I got frozen as an actor because I was so self-conscious and so anxious, and now it's like coming full circle where I'm using my original university degree in television production as well as my acting background, as well as the yoga and all the spiritual lessons that I learned to be able to have this really creative platform. And you said yourself that I'm creative, and I realized that nothing lights me up like being creative. And you had made the distinction for me that, you know, you had said to me once in one of our sessions that I'm an entrepreneur at my heart, you know, and that an entrepreneur for me is being creative. And that this is like learning to shoot and edit videos and thinking of creative content. It's opened up a whole new world for me. So I'm really excited to share it.
I'm so excited. Congratulations. Me too. So please don't forget, audience, please, my beautiful tribe, go check out her YouTube channel, Melanie Richards. We'll make sure that the links are all there and stuff like that. How amazing. I'm so excited. And is there other takeaways that you want people to just think of when they're thinking of, you know, starting their true purposeful life? You know, even if it's just transition or transformation, like they're just in a place of anxiety or stress, or they just don't believe, or they're being told they can't. Are there some nuggets of wisdom that you really want people to just put in their pocket and keep from you?
For sure.
You know?
Well, one is that your soul will not guide you in the wrong direction. So when you really are tapped in and you really understand when the deepest core of you is speaking to you, you are allowed to trust that. You have permission to trust that without necessarily knowing where it's going to lead you next. Something that you taught me in our very, very early on in our first sessions together that really stuck with me is you told me as a mantra that I had to repeat, by the way, over and over, you are important. You are important. And so the business, if you're not okay, if you're not taking care of yourself, if you're hiding from what needs to be done, either whether it's something self-care wise or something to do with, you know, protecting your business, then it's not going to work. Right. So by giving yourself importance and not just giving all your energy away, and sort of, I have a big people pleasing issue, as we know. So, you know, where I was trying to make everyone, all my clients, all my students, all my staff members happy without necessarily protecting the overall business or myself in the process. So you need to put yourself and your business first. And do what makes sense for that.
Yes, I love it. Is there anything else you think that they would need to know, especially in relationship to like anxiousness or things like that? Because I know that's something that you're very masterful at helping people with in different ways. And many of us in this day and age are experiencing stress and anxiety like at a through the roof level, just because of the way how quickly everything is paced. You know, I think yoga is going to become more, and mindfulness is going to become more and more important because we're moving. Everything is happening at such a rapid pace. You know what I mean? And I know you have some tips that will really make a difference for people if you want to share some of those.
Yeah, I do. And just make sure I don't get too off track, because there is something I want to say about that as a precursor, which is that I also studied Kundalini yoga and Yogi Bhajan. always remember, I mean, I did my training in 2007, and he had predicted back in the late 60s, early 70s, he said, you know, starting in 2012 and around that time, the disease of the time is going to be anxiety, depression, and burnout. And
Absolutely.
people will have information at the tip of their fingertips. And the problem won't be getting information. It'll be discerning what's true,
Yes.
not. So that type of yoga was actually designed to be able to strengthen your nervous system and raise your consciousness and awareness to be able to deal with this amount of stress, which actually our nervous system is not quite yet built for, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
A few generations to adapt to a new way of living. And I mean, the internet was invented in my lifetime. I mean, it's crazy to think. Anyway, so there's that. And then the important lesson that you taught me, the huge takeaway for me that you taught me, was that anxiety is not a stop sign, it's a signpost. It's saying that I'm out of alignment. I need to just listen. It's not against me, it's actually for me. It's trying to tell me something. It's saying, listen, you're off track. Like maybe it's because I haven't slept enough, or I've gotten out of yoga practice. Maybe it's because I've been hiding from a conversation that I know I need to have for my business or personal life, you know. So usually it's like, you actually help me to see that my anxiety is so fine-tuned that it's this amazing tool that I have, which hopefully I can transcend at some point also. But for now, it's helping me to know when I'm off track.
Yeah, which is really, really important. And I think it's amazing. And let me ask you this question, because I, you know, put you in a little bit of a vulnerability here, because I know you've had anxiety. We've talked about that. You're sharing that with people now. And, you know, it's really important when we say anxiety is like a helper, is, you know, how do we interact with it then? Like, first of all, the shift is, maybe this is really that signpost versus like a stop sign, and I need to look for the sign and what that sign is. And when we do that, the benefits are what? So, you know, when you've done that, when you've stopped and you've done that research or that probing, that making yourself important, going inward, asking the question, listen, what am I trying to tell myself through this anxiety? Like, what are you trying to show me? You know what I mean? And then you've stopped. What happens to your anxiety once you know the answers? Tell us about that.
It disappears right away.
Right. Amazing.
And I think that was one of the things, is that in our sessions, sometimes it took a while, but you would really keep on me until I got to the actual nugget of truth of where the anxiety was coming from. Usually something I really didn't want to face. Yeah. And once you made me face it, and then we're like, you know what, it's okay. This is what you can do.
Right.
And
so
it's like a shift from like, oh my God, this thing, it's hiding in the closet. It's in the dark. I don't want to look at it. I'm so scared. I'm so scared. I'm so scared. Open the closet door. And you're like, okay, no, this is manageable. I can deal with this mess. Amazing. You know, and as soon as you start, whatever action it is that you need to take, it goes away. And usually for me, it gets replaced with a real sense of drive and enthusiasm, and my energy shifts right away. Like, anxiety is so draining for me. I'm so tired when I'm anxious. And then as soon as I know the solution, it's like I'm a whole different person.
It's incredible.
I get so juiced up. I'm like,
it's so important. That's so important for the audience. And the thing I love is that I know you're helping tons of people with it now. So although thank you so much for acknowledging that I was the helper, but you also now have taken that and you're helping many, many, many people with that same problem. And even today, it's very important for people to understand, when we listen and look at the signpost, right, it will dissipate immediately. Like self-trust, truth is your name, or truth is your name.
Yeah.
When you know your truth, even if it's painful, even if it's hard, even if it makes you vulnerable, it will immediately dissipate. And that's what's very important. Stress, pain, or any kind of tension that you may be experiencing around building a life that you want, or the dreams that you have, will immediately dissipate once you understand your truth, right? And this is the thing that I love about yoga as well. And I honestly love, we should plug our retreats, because like, don't we love doing retreats together? Is you have a space to just stop and hear safely where you're at and who you are. And when you hear it,
often we don't take the time, right?
Yes.
Like, maybe that's why, like, and I specialize in yin yoga as well, where people are sitting in or they're just stretching in a pose, a passive posture for 5-6 minutes at a time. I also love teaching meditation. And in that time, it's like you actually have the time to hear yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
And to listen.
Yes. So important.
Yeah.
So definitely I want to plug that, people, you got to keep looking out for those YouTube videos. Mel's going to start teaching an awful lot online, and you're going to be super excited. She's an absolutely incredible teacher. And I mean, an amazing, I call you a healer because that's what you're, like a yoga healer to me. You just help people change. You help them understand. You help them grow. You help them feel safe, which is so important in this day and age. You make the time, Mel, to understand each person differently and uniquely. And by the way, you're a goofball too. I just want to bring that up.
Yeah, we're like a perfect match.
No, it's the best. Honestly, it's the best because
you guys come on the retreat with us. We have one.
Honestly,
Morocco end of March,
right? Oh, it's hysterical.
Yeah.
I'm like totally so much off fun. The edge, and you're like, okay, Lisa, like, okay, we got to pull back a bit. We'll be off the edge. We'll be like, we got to focus.
Yeah, focus.
So much.
But we're good because we both really. I think we're both hard workers and entrepreneurs in our own rights, and so it's I think it's a good example for people to come on retreats and see that we get goofy and we have a relaxed atmosphere, but we get tons of work done at the same time.
100%. And enlightenment is really about lighten up. And
our
enlightened retreats are very, very important. And they've done, I know, a world of good for the people that have come, that we've met, that have been joined with us during those times. We have one in Morocco, just saying, next year, and we have a couple more in the works. So keep your eyes out for that for sure.
End of March 2019.
Oh, perfect.
And the details are up.
Bill?
What's that?
Any final comments that you want to make?
Oh, just that I love you. And thank
you
you so much for having me on your show. And the show, you're talking about me and how it was a no-brainer. One thing led to the other. And of course, I'm doing a YouTube channel. For me, it's like, of course you have your own radio show. You're at it. You're so good at it.
Thanks.
So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
You've been a huge blessing in my life. I don't know where I'd be. I'd hate to think about it if I hadn't met you. And that I just want people to know that I've been through what I consider to be the worst hell for myself, and that, I keep coming out still enthusiastic, still excited about life, and even more excited every time that I learn from those hardships. So don't give up.
Yeah. And let yourself be vulnerable enough to learn. Isn't that huge?
That's important.
Yeah. It really is. And when we're vulnerable, we can then become victorious over our life experiences, because it's through that we rise. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
Oh, so good. I'm so happy we had this time. And man, we have so much more we could even talk about. So, look out. Mel will be on the show again for sure. And deep conversations for sure. I really wanted to talk about how about your life and what you went through, and your wonderful yoga studio and all the things that you do for people to help serve them. And we hardly even touch the surface of how much you serve people. So I'm just so proud of who you are as a person, as a spirit, as my soul daughter. I just adore you. I'm happy we're on the show together. And till the next time, look out. HappyTree.com. Is that it? HappyTree Yoga.
HappyTreeYoga.com. We have trainings coming up. We have retreats, obviously, with Lisa too. And we have drop-in classes. We're at the corner of Villeneuve and Saint Laurent. You can take my classes there on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. And I have some other wonderful teachers on my staff that I'd love you to meet on the other days of the week. So definitely come check us out if you're in the area.
Yeah, Montreal, Quebec, just in case you didn't hear that in the beginning. Awesome. Thank you so much, Mel. I love you.
Love you too.
Talk to you all soon. Bye, tribe. See you next time.